He survived an insider trading scandal. He survived gambling allegations that nearly wrecked his marriage in the public eye. He survived becoming the most hated man in golf overnight after his LIV golf comments blew up his career. Phil Mickelson has survived almost every kind of controversy a public figure can survive. But this one is different, because this time, it's not about money, and it's not about golf. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why this story refuses to die, why Mickelson's own lawyers are now threatening to sue journalists, and why even law enforcement got pulled into it. Stick with me, because the deeper we go into this, the messier it gets. And there's a twist near the end of this story that completely changes how you'll see it. Before we get into it, hit subscribe so you don't miss where this goes next, because this is still developing in real time. Let's start at the beginning, because the way this story broke matters just as much as what it alleges. For decades, there was one place in Southern California where Phil Mickelson could just be a golfer. Not a LIV golf frontman, not a defendant in an SEC case, not a man at the center of gambling headlines. Just Phil, hitting balls, playing rounds, being a member like anyone else. That place was the Farms Golf Club, a private course in Rancho Santa Fe, about 25 miles outside San Diego, not far from Torrey Pines. It's the kind of place where you'll find Annika Sorenstam's name on a membership roster or Xander Schaufel's. Quiet, exclusive, the last place you'd expect a scandal to start. But according to a Golf Digest investigation, that's exactly where it started. Multiple sources told Golf Digest that earlier this spring, Mickelson approached a female employee inside the clubhouse before he was set to play a round. According to those sources, what followed was non-consensual and inappropriate physical contact. The employee rejected the advance. And then, according to the reporting, she did what so many people in her position are afraid to do. She reported it. Not days later, not after thinking it over. As Mickelson walked back out to the course to start his round, she went to her supervisors. Now here's where it gets serious. This wasn't a complaint that sat in a drawer. The Farms moved fast. Club officials launched a review, and according to the reporting, it didn't take long before they tracked Mickelson down. Not in an office, not after his round, but mid-round, out on the course. He was confronted with the accusation right there. And according to multiple sources, he was told to leave the property. He didn't finish the round. Think about that for a second. This is a 6-time major champion, a man who's played that course for decades, asked to leave mid-round and never return. Golf Digest reported that it identified and verified the employee at the center of this story, but made the decision to withhold her name to protect her privacy, and she declined to participate in the reporting herself. That detail matters, because it tells you this wasn't built on rumor. It was built on sourcing the publication was confident enough and to put its name behind. So what did the Farms actually say on the record? Their statement didn't name Mickelson directly, but it didn't leave much room for interpretation either. They said the club is committed to maintaining a respectful, safe environment, and that all members are required to follow their code of conduct. They confirmed that following a staff member's report of misconduct, they conducted a thorough, independent investigation and took decisive action. The statement closed by confirming the individual is no longer a member of the Farms Golf Club. No suspension, no warning. Done. Now, here's where most reports on this story would just end. Allegation, investigation, expulsion, statement. Story over. But it's not over. Because what happened next is what turned this from a one-day headline into a legal standoff that's still unfolding right now. A spokesperson for Mickelson gave Golf Digest a short response. Any misunderstanding, they said, has been cleared up. They added that Phil continues to deal with a serious, undisclosed family health matter and remains uncertain when, or if, he'll return to professional golf. That word, misunderstanding, is doing a lot of work in that sentence. And for a while, that's all the public had to go on. Then Mickelson's legal team got involved. Attorney Tom Clare, who specializes in defamation cases, came out swinging. He told Golf Digest the description of the incident was, in his words, contradicted by objective video evidence. That's a strong claim. It suggests there's footage that tells a completely different story than the one multiple sources gave to Golf Digest. Except here's the twist. When Golf Digest dug into that claim, they found something that should make you pause before picking a side in this story. There was no video. No cameras covered the area where the incident allegedly happened. The club itself confirmed there's no footage showing any interaction between Mickelson and the employee at all. Golf Digest even gave Mickelson's legal team a direct opportunity to produce the footage they referenced. Nothing was provided. So you have a lawyer publicly claiming video evidence exists that disproves the story, and the publication finding no evidence that any such video exists in the first place. That's not a small contradiction. That's the kind of detail that makes this story worth watching closely, because somebody's account doesn't add up. It didn't stop there either. Days later, Claire issued another statement, this one sharper. He said there's a great deal of misinformation circulating, and that while Phil's full attention is on his family's health situation, he has now retained defamation counsel and is, in his words, determined to hold accountable any publication or individual trafficking in speculation or false rumors. That's not a denial anymore. That's a legal threat aimed at the media, and it tells you Mickelson's camp isn't planning to let this quietly fade. Then law enforcement entered the picture. The San Diego County Sheriff's Office confirmed it investigated the allegation and said it found no evidence that an assault occurred. But pay close attention to the wording here, because it matters. The Sheriff's Office also said it would absolutely investigate further if provided with additional evidence or information, and it actively encouraged anyone with knowledge of the incident to come forward. That's not a closed case being declared false. That's an open door. And then came perhaps the most concrete update yet. Claire stated publicly that Mickelson did not get expelled. He resigned from the farms on his own terms after the allegations surfaced. That directly conflicts with multiple sources who told Golf Digest he was confronted on the course and told to leave. Two very different versions of how this ended. Both can't be fully true. So where does that leave us? An accusation taken seriously enough for a private club to launch an independent investigation and cut ties with one of its most famous members. A law enforcement review that found no evidence of assault, but is still open to new evidence. A legal team disputing the facts, citing footage that doesn't appear to exist, and now threatening to sue over what it calls misinformation. And two competing stories about whether Mickelson left the club willingly or was forced out. This is genuinely unresolved. Anyone telling you they know exactly what happened inside that clubhouse is telling you more than the public record actually supports. If you're new to this channel, this is exactly the kind of story we dig into here at Golf Maximo Official. Not just the headline, but everything underneath it. Hit subscribe now, because this case is almost certainly going to keep developing, and we'll be tracking every update. Now let's talk about why this story landed the way it did. Because the timing is brutal for Mickelson, and his career was already in a strange, fragile place before any of this broke. This year alone, Mickelson has made just one competitive start. One. For a player who built his entire identity on being a constant presence in the biggest events in golf, that's almost unthinkable. He withdrew from the Masters. He withdrew from the PGA Championship, the very tournament where, at 50 years old, he pulled off one of the most stunning achievements in golf history, becoming the oldest major champion the sport has ever seen. He's run out of exemptions for the US Open, a tournament where he's finished runner-up a record 6 times and never once won. Arguably the most painful gap in an otherwise legendary resume. The reason given for all of this absence has been the same: a serious, undisclosed family health matter that Mickelson has chosen to keep private. So picture where he was, going into this. Already mostly invisible from competitive golf. Already carrying years of accumulated controversy. And then this story breaks. Because let's be honest, this isn't the first time Mickelson's name has been tied to controversy that has nothing to do with his swing. Go back to 2016. Mickelson was named as a relief defendant in an SEC insider trading case connected to a stock tip about Dean Foods. He was never criminally charged, but he did agree to repay close to $1 million in profits tied to that trade, without admitting wrongdoing. For a guy with a squeaky clean, fan-favorite image, that was the first real crack. Then came the gambling revelations. Professional gambler Billy Walters, in his own memoir, made explosive claims about the sheer scale of Mickelson's betting habits over the years. Numbers and patterns that shocked a lot of people who thought they knew Phil. Mickelson later admitted publicly that his gambling had become a problem, that he'd gone too far, and that he was working on it. That admission alone reshaped how a lot of fans saw him. And then 2022 happened, the year that, for many fans, changed Mickelson permanently. He became the public face recruiting players for the Saudi-backed LIV Golf League, and his comments about the Saudi regime, made to a journalist, detonated across the golf world. He lost major sponsors almost overnight. He stepped away from the public eye for months. When he came back, he was a different figure in the sport, respected for his game, but trailed everywhere by controversy. Which brings us back to today, a six-time major champion, a man who once signed autographs for hours after every round, win or lose. A man who pulled off one of the most emotional, age-defying wins in major championship history. And now a man at the center of a disputed misconduct allegation, a vanishing competitive schedule, an undisclosed family crisis, and a legal team threatening to sue the press. So here's the real question, and it's the one nobody can answer yet. What happens to Phil Mickelson's legacy from here? Does this become a footnote in an already complicated career? Does more evidence emerge that clears things up one way or the other? Does he ever step back inside the ropes at a major championship again? Right now, even the people closest to this story don't have those answers. The sheriff's office says it'll keep investigating if new evidence comes in. Mickelson's lawyers say they're preparing to go after anyone they accuse of spreading falsehoods. And the golf world is left watching one of its most fascinating, most complicated careers head into its final act under a cloud nobody saw coming. We'll be following this story as it develops. So if you want to know the moment something new breaks, subscribe to Golf Al Maximo Official and turn on notifications. Drop a comment below. Do you believe there's more to this story than what's public right now? And which version do you find more credible, the original reporting or Mickelson's camp's response? Let's discuss it down there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.